Good morning, Big Brother fans. It is Monday, August 16th. And I haven't figured out the days in the Big Brother house lately, and I'm not going to try it right now. But we are at Power of Veto Ceremony Day. And there will be a Power of Veto used. It will be the one that Kylan got, which he got by betting on Alyssa to win on the Power of Veto. So, and then Brittany's going to go up in the place, and Alyssa isn't going to use the Power of Veto. There's your quick summary of what's going to happen today. Yesterday's show gave us a little bit more insight into the high roller room and the way it worked. I think most of you understood it. The one thing they didn't seem to explain very well was, and I guess it'll be shown on Wednesday's show, is it sounds like the person that got the highest score may have got to bet first, and then you got to vet in the order that you completed the score wise. So Kylan got to bet first, and then I don't remember who was in second at this point. It doesn't matter. Was Claire second? Or was Alyssa second? Whichever it was. You got to bet, the first person, because you only could bet for one person, obviously. They weren't giving away multiple power vetoes. It was just one power veto. So only one person got to bet for each other person. So Kylan bet. Not only did he get to bet first, he bet that Alyssa would win the power veto, and then, he let Alyssa win the power veto, which, he could have won it himself, and then he would have had both. No, he wouldn't have had both. Okay, if he had won it himself, Claire would have won the power veto, which, he would have had it, so he could have I don't know if he could have overruled Claire's power veto. Claire would have saved herself, and then he would have put up, I don't know. It was kind of, he did it to gain some kind of trust out of Alyssa, which is a short-lived trust, obviously. And so that bit will hopefully be explained on Wednesday's show. Did I learn anything else from Wednesday's show? Just confirmed who got the actual dollar amounts, which we already kind of knew based on what they talked about. And of course, those of you that I think I talked about it, but if I hadn't, the Brittany is going to be going up as Claire's replacement. First of all, because Kylan's going to use it. Alyssa wouldn't have used it if it wasn't. It could have been that neither of them would have used the power veto today. However, because the cookout started talking and said, you know what? Brittany won $100. She'll have money. She'll get more money, and then she'll have enough money to buy one of the more powerful, or to try to win one of the more powerful powers next week. So we should get rid of her. Because if she chooses the one that's a random thing, then we could lose a cookout person. So I would say that Tiffany was kind of a little bit behind on some of this too, because she kind of wanted to put the target on Brittany and make sure Claire stayed safe. But Brittany kind of sealed her fate in that she didn't keep her mouth shut about how many bucks she got. And of course, Brittany has not realized that there's an alliance that she has no idea about. And that's kind of what cost her. Speaking of that alliance, Cookout Alliance, yesterday at 4:07 p.m., Derek X and Claire. Now, this discussion has kind of happened in bits and pieces in the past. At least it's been hinted at. But this was a fairly concise conversation where, and I did tweet out the video if you check my timeline. and it said edited for time, by the way. That's because there was lots of pauses, and you can only put up, I think it's 2 minutes and 20 seconds of video. So I had to get the video pared down to 2 minutes and 20 seconds. I think I got it to 2 minutes and 18 seconds. So that's the reason it says edited for time. I really only edited out pauses. I don't. There was one comment about noticing that Whitney and then Christian went out. Basically noticing that all the white people were getting voted out. And I'm saying that because it's exactly what Derek said. Have you noticed that no white person has one head of household? I think, no, that's not what he said. Obviously Frenchie did, but Claire says, yeah, and all the white people have been evicted. Only white people have been evicted. That's where, and Derek's like, yeah, I wasn't going to say that. Because Derek technically isn't a white person. He's a person of color. And so he was feeling a little bit like awkward as he's sitting with Claire. But they were like, wow, yeah. What if there was a secret alliance? Now, they didn't quite narrow it down to only the black people in the house, but it was kind of hinted at. And so, yeah, they kind of said that would be amazing. Oh, my gosh, that would be the best thing ever. Kind of. They were like, they would be in awe if they had managed to pull that off. And then Derek said, they would have to have met the very first week and said, we're never meeting again. Which is kind of what happened. They never even all met together. They all just kind of talked and said, this is the thing, yes, this is the thing, and passed the word. So he's not wrong about that. And so, yeah, it obviously Claire and Derek, and they did talk about the fact that this year it will either be a woman or a person of color or both that will win. And they were like, that's kind of amazing. Now, I know, I think almost every single one of you listening to this probably understands the term person of color, but let me clarify. Only because I myself wasn't up to that lingo until last year as far as what defines what. And person of color, as it has been explained to me last year, is pretty much anyone who isn't white. So, Derek X is a person of color. Alyssa is actually a person of color because of her Latin heritage. So it's pretty much just us, and I'm one of them, us white folks that came over from Europe that fall into the not person of color identity. Now, I'm going to bet somebody's going to message me and tell me I'm wrong or try to explain it a little bit more. I'm just explaining it as it has been explained to me by people of color. That's that includes people from Asia. It includes people from just anyone who's not basically a European heritage, which I am. I'm Irish and Polish. That's and it's like 80%, 90% Irish, and a sprinkling of Polish from my paternal grandmother. All right, so that's what's going on. I'm trying to think if there's anything else to talk about. Not really. And I'm starting to, as I was getting ready to do this morning, I thought, you know what? Things are going to slow down here. No, there's stuff to talk about, actually. There's the cookout, trying to work out the cookout zone issues. And there was the counseling session that was held between, with Xavier kind of hosting Azza and Tiffany, kind of working things out a little bit on some of their kind of oil and water. Tiffany is not a fan of Azza. As far as her, she doesn't like the way that she plays Big Brother, and she doesn't respect it, I would say. And she has said to Azza, we're at two different levels. And I know what she means. She means we're playing two different kinds of Big Brother. But as soon as you use the word levels, you are implying something is higher than the other, two different heights. And I know what Tiffany's saying is, I'm playing at a higher level than you. That's what Tiffany's saying. Yeah, the word level is not a good word to use when you're making a comparison with someone, because you're implying that unless you're saying you're playing at a higher level than me, you're setting yourself up for, and Azah actually has sucked it up and just let Tiffany lecture her, whether it's a respect for her elder or it's I'm not going to play that game, I'm not going to do this one-upmanship. But I did say last night, and I am not the only one. As a matter of fact, Scott said it like shortly after me, and I think we both probably would have said it at other times. Tiffany doesn't really admit she's wrong. She just, if Tiffany's going to do an apology, it's I'm sorry you misunderstood me, not I'm sorry. It's a qualified I'm sorry, and of course that's just basically shows that you're not really sorry. You're just trying to clear the air and move on. And that's exactly what this meeting was last night. It was all about Tiffany explaining her reasoning, explaining why the way things were that were. And eventually Azah cried. And, Tiffany would say, well, I don't show my emotions like that, kind of a thing. And she said, you're like a sister. But at the same time, it's like, yeah. So I'm not knocking Tiffany, by the way. I'm just saying that was not a meeting where both sides hammered things out. It was more of a meeting where Tiffany and Xavier was right there, and he didn't call Tiffany on it. So he would kind of bump a little bit and say, well, but he didn't. If he came out of that, I think Xavier would agree that, Tiffany really didn't apologize, but he's not going to tell Tiffany that because, man, you don't want to get on Tiffany's bad side. So, and he probably sees Tiffany as a stronger player between Azah and Tiffany as well. And so he doesn't want to ruffle her feathers. All right, so that happened. There was also, at the very same time, in the head of household room, Kyland was talking to Derek Frazier, and Derek was kind of counseling Kyland a little bit. I'm sorry, Kyland was counseling Derek a little bit on his headbutting with Tiffany, as I recall. So that was going on as well. That went on earlier with when Tiffany kind of got approached by Derek Frazier and Azah about Brittany. So that all went on. One other thing as I wrap it up here. Yeah, I know I said I was wrapping it up 5 minutes ago, but I forgot about all this stuff to talk about. Overnight, or towards the end of the night, Kyland announced he was going to do another round of interviews. Now, Kyland is now notorious for having really long interviews, often where Kyland doesn't give any information and tries to pull information out of everybody else. And this was exactly the case overnight, as he grilled, I don't know if he grilled all of them, he grilled a lot of the house guests. I know he talked to Tiffany, and he actually said to Tiffany, I'm not answering questions, I'm only asking questions. I was like, wow, dude. And then same thing happened again with Brittany. But the funny thing was, and I got to go find it. I really got to go watch it maybe when I get home today. The tweets that were out there was that Brittany walked into the head of household room and said, how are you doing? And he said, I'm not answering questions. It's like, okay, that's not the kind of question that you shut somebody down on. That's just not going to rub people the right way. And I would say that won't rub people the right way. And let's be honest, if Kyland is one of the two people sitting in the final two, I don't know if he's going to get anybody's votes for some of the ways he's handled his head of household, because he's kind of a dick about stuff. So, yeah. It will be interesting. All right. Now, with that, I am now parking. And so I will say farewell. Wish you a good Monday. Thanks for listening. And that's it. We're going to wrap it up. I will talk to you guys tomorrow, unless something major happens, which I'm not anticipating. All right? Be well, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.